may already know that this is a mid-range version of a well-received smartphone from one of the weakest part of this phone. I noticed the same off-angle rainbow discoloration Ryan Hager did in his review for Android Police, and while Tom's Guide found a peak brightness of 778 nits, that's still not quite bright enough to stand up to the worst of the summer sun. But here's the thing. Some are calling this display a deal breaker, which is ridiculous to me because it ignores all the value Google packs in to counteract that spec sacrifice. Things like call screening, so you don't waste time on scammers. More features in dictation for voice typing, and a voice recorder that lets you search those recorded transcripts. Now Playing, which tells you what song you're hearing in the background without you having to touch it. And Live Translate to help you communicate across the language barrier. Yeah, independently, they're all just little morsels, but taken in sum with all the other subtleties that Google sneaks in. Almost forgot the excellent haptics, stuff like that. The result is a cocktail of convenience that more than makes up for a screen that some consider too slow. Now, of course, that's subjective, but if you're someone like me who finds refresh rate debates about as tiresome as audiophile complaints about the headphone jack this phone is also missing, well, you'll probably appreciate the Pixel 6a too. Especially since Google has finally freed it of the tired, forgettable form factor within which the A line has been imprisoned since its inception. The 6a adopts the bold LaForge visor of the 6 line, thinner now but just as recognizable, as well as a trio of colorways that reinforce that dedication to design. You can feel the compromise a little in the seam where the plastic meets the side rails, and you can see the slightly larger chin at the screen's bottom bezel, but that's peanuts next to all the added personality the Pixel brings to the table versus, say, Samsung's closest competitor, the Galaxy A53. The other notable competition, the Nothing Phone 1, is are made possible by Google's Tensor chipset, which also carries a few compromises that we have to cover. The Pixel 6a's shortcomings, silicon and non, after I get a quick bite to eat. So, from soup to nuts, the Pixel 6a's biggest letdown for me has been power. While Google didn't shrink the battery all that much compared to last year, I found the 6a's endurance to be well short of the Pixel 5a, a figure backed up by my publisher Future Labs in its own testing. And folks, I was going light on the Pixel because I was using another phone for mobile hotspot and media, and even then, more than once the Pixel 6a decided to end the day without me, only seeing me through 12 or 14 hours instead of the 16 to 18 I generally need. That battery bummer is compounded by the 18-watt charging speed, which is just too slow. I came home for a quick shower before that Google event around 4 p.m., by which time the phone was down to 33%. By the time I was heading out in the Uber an hour later, it had gotten up to 83%. Not bad, but I gotta believe the 25-watt charging on the Samsung A53 or 33 watts on the Nothing Phone 1 would have gotten me back to a full battery. And speaking of Carl Pei's new flashy phone, it has to be mentioned that if nothing can put wireless charging into a mid-range device, Google should be able to as well. I teased the Tensor before the break, and it's likely that custom silicon is responsible for the added power drain, plus the fact that the phone tends to run hotter than I'm used to. And there's one more concern related to that. Both Android Police and Android Central reported modem issues with their units on cellular and Wi-Fi reception, respectively. And earlier this week, it was reported that some 6a units can be unlocked with unregistered fingerprints. I haven't been able to reproduce that issue, but the fact that my first Pixel 6a review unit had a defective radio that couldn't see the cellular network, well, I admit, it gives me pause. Especially since Google has been fairly slow to patch bugs on the Pixel 6 and 6 Pro. Review device have been much more positive than not, with no reception problems and a much smoother software experience than I had on the pre-release builds. And, you know, that mirrors my luckier streak with the earlier 6 and 6 Pro as well. The issues with the Pixel seem to be mostly with quality control, not design deficiencies. So if you buy one, I'd recommend paying very close attention during the return exchange period and swapping it out if you see signs of a defect. Should you buy one? For me, folks, the answer is yes. to anyone who values the total package ahead of a single specification. It's got the best cameras in its class, and it's got features you can't find on any other phone. It's a unique, delightful package that I quite enjoy. If you see this video before August 7th, you can claim an additional $50 credit by buying from the Google Store, or if you prefer to finance from your carrier, it's available on all the major US players, as well as in 12 other countries around the world. The Pixel 6a is on sale now. For more on my thoughts on the only $450-ish device that I'd consider buying instead of this, the Nothing Phone 1, see my Fun Phones of 2022 video. And if you're eager to hear me wax poetic about foldables once again, well, so am I.